afternoon. I want to thank you for your service. It's people like you who take time off from their work, from their daily lives, to come to court and be sure that our justice system is preserved. And for that, we want to thank you. You do this, you don't grumble about it, you come in here and you do your job. We appreciate that. A good jury is a cross-section of the community. Each one of you comes in here, you have different jobs, you have different religious backgrounds, come from different places, but you all share different experiences. And that's why it's good to have a cross-section of people, because each one of you has something to tell the other. Each one of you can look at a case a little differently than the other. The state gave you some charges that we feel the judge will read to you. I want to go over just a couple more of those, and then we'll get into what we believe the evidence showed or not showed. I think the cradle of American liberty is the burden of proof. Very simply put, the state has the burden of proving this case to you, not to a reasonable doubt, but beyond a reasonable doubt. That's what makes our system work. Presumption of innocence. Colin Gray, when he came into this courtroom, was presumed innocent. That presumption of innocence stays with a person until it's overcome by competent legal evidence. Reasonable doubt. Brooks went over a little bit about reasonable doubt. But simplified is it's a doubt for which you have a reason. It can be because of a conflict in the evidence. It can be because of a lack of evidence, or any number of things. If you are not satisfied and your minds are wavering and you're saying, well, you know, I didn't hear about this, I've got a problem with that, then that's a doubt of the law and you should acquit. Court's also going to tell you about grave suspicion. Grave suspicion, it merely puts upon a defendant a grave suspicion of a crime charged, or merely raises a speculation or a conjecture of the defendant's guilt. It is not sufficient to authorize a conviction. Speculation and conjecture is something that we have heard in this case. A lot of speculation. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? A lot of conjecture. It's important to keep that in mind. I want to go over just a minute with you the indictment. I'm going to try to simplify it as much as I can. I know Ms. Brooks went over it initially. But in counts 1 and 2 of the indictment, to simplify it, you're going to have to find cruelty before you can even get to the murder in the second degree. You're going to have to do that for counts 1, 2, 3, 4, and basically 5 and 6. You're going to have to find an underlying charge before you ever get to the main charge. There's a lot of terms here, a lot of things that the court's going to tell you. You're going to hear criminal negligence, you're going to hear proximate cause. All of these are important for you to understand when you're plugging in what the state has said in their indictment. And this is what they say. That criminal negligence in the child under the age of 18 cruel and excessive pain by consciously disregarding a substantial and unjustifiable risk. And that this act of allowing Colt Gray, a minor over whom he had custodial responsibility, access to a firearm and ammunition. Let me stop here, because Georgia law does not require a gun be locked up or ammunition be locked up. So that's not a criminal act. Having a gun in the house, having ammunition in the house is not a criminal act. So don't forget that that's not the case. That's not the criminal act, supposedly, that they're indicating. And in the indictment, they indicate that Colin Gray knew that this would happen. That's real important, because that really is the key to this case. Is what did he know? Did he know that Colt would do this? What evidence do they have that points to he would do it? That's what they've alleged in their indictment. And if you'll remember, the district attorney in his opening statement told you he knew it. He said he knew that this was going to happen. How did he know it? Got a child with some issues, but how did he know it? Was there anything that showed that he knew it? That there's a gross deviation. What's gross deviation? That's something that you're going to have to figure out. Was this a gross deviation where he allowed his son to have this gun? It's not illegal to have. These are things that you'll have to look at in the indictment and have to make your decision about. What a horrible thing for these children to have to go through. Something that no child should have to endure. The loss of a child by a parent is difficult. The loss of a husband or a wife in a situation like that is horrible. And we're not saying it's not. First part of this case, they went through all of the horror that these children went through. But that's not really what this case is about. It's not that you decide this case on emotion. You have to decide this case on facts and the law. It's the only two things. You know, when you took your oath to be a juror, an oath is a promise. And you promised us in that oath that you took that you weren't going to be biased, that you were going to look at the facts and circumstances and render a fair verdict based on the law and facts. I know that's hard in a case like this. You've got a lot of pressure. Everybody in this community wants to see somebody go to jail other than this young man right here. This is the person who went into the high school and shot and killed 4 people he didn't even know and injured scores of others. This is the person who needs to be punished. He made a conscious decision to do this. A secretive decision. This is the person that should be punished. He's being charged as an adult, which means he suffers the same consequences as an adult would if he were charged in the case. We were not able to have him testify, nor was the state. The reason is that we couldn't call him because his attorney would not allow us to do that. It'd be hearsay if we attempted to do that. Had he been tried first, maybe we could do that. Maybe we could give some answers to some of the questions that still linger for all of us. Who is Colt Gray? We found out that he was a smart kid, obviously. He was able at 11 years old to get behind a firewall at school and do searches. I wouldn't be able to get behind a firewall at my age and do any searches. So at 11 years old, that's pretty good. So we know he was a smart kid. We know that he kept dark secrets. How do we know that? Because he was on that computer. He was on a computer with a dark web. We know that because Jenny told us he had a number of different accounts. He was always changing his password. And this is where he got information about these individuals that you see on this board. Nicholas Cruz, among others. He was secretive in that he didn't tell everybody what he was doing. He certainly didn't tell his dad. You're not going to find one email or one witness that tells you Colt told his dad he was going to do a shooting. Look at all of the evidence that you have over here and over here. You got 60,000 pages of text messages. 60,000. Not one of those text messages informs him of anything that he's going to do to harm anybody. We know that Colt had some mental issues. We're not trying to get around that. But what was the extent of those mental issues? We don't even know today, as we are here, what those mental issues were, even today, over a year after this incident. And even if he had been taken to a counselor, as manipulative as he was, do you think he'd be able to get around that counselor, convince him that he was fine? Was his parents that were the problem? They thought he suffered from anxiety and depression. Had these volatile temper tantrums. As I said, the first days of this trial were pretty emotional. An awful lot of evidence that you have to look at. But certainly we want you to look at it all. They're going to have to show that this was an anticipated and a reasonably foreseen incident on the part of Colin Gray. Well, who would be able to foresee that a 14-year-old is going to take a rifle, I don't know where it is, as big as it is, as heavy it is as it is, and stick it in a book bag, get on a bus, come to school, walk down the hall, go to class, put it down on the floor, and not one single person sees it? How foreseeable is that? And on top of that, then we have, what is foreseeability in some other people at the school? At 8:46, Miss Harris sends an email. Got a kid in my class who's asking about school shootings. 8:46. Then, after her class, she goes to Ms. Martin's office, one of the people that she emails, and tells her, I believe I saw a gun. Did they shut the school down right then? No. It's 9:40. 23 minutes, Colt Gray is sitting in class before he leaves. They got 23 minutes to figure out where is this kid that made this threat and maybe has a gun. They didn't find him. They don't take anybody that knows what he looks like. They didn't ask, what does this kid look like? They don't get a description of him. They go pull another Colin Gray out of the bathroom. Doesn't look anything like Colt Gray. Apparently, nothing was ever said about there being two Colt Grays in the same class. And during the time that they are pulling Colin Gray out of the bathroom, Colt Gray is in the same bathroom. Foreseeability. People miss things. School officials miss things. It's not unusual sometimes that people miss things. An hour and a half, Colt Gray was in the school with a gun, and nobody found him. A gun that takes 7.5 pounds to pull the trigger. The ammunition was hunting ammunition. It's an AR style. Not a machine gun. You don't hold the trigger down and it keeps firing. It's semi-automatic, like a 9mm or many other rifles that people purchase. Let's talk about the people that knew the most about Colt, his family. Debbie, his grandmother, told you that he was her favorite, firstborn son. Told you that he was very manipulative. I think you saw that on the text. If he didn't get what he wanted, he would pitch a fit. Not like some other children. Don't get what they want, they pitch a fit. She told you about the comings and goings of Colt, Colin, and Marcy, and the other children. When they were there, and Fitzgerald, and when they weren't. She told you about an incident when Colt and his mother got into it. Mother slapped him. He broke a pane out of the glass door, slamming the door. And she called DFACS. DFACS intervened. This, they want to tell you, is a red flag, where Colt was slapped by his mother and he slammed the door too hard. There was an allegation that he was stabbing the couch. What Debbie told you that Marcy lied, and she didn't know whether he did that or not. And of course, Colt denied to his dad that he did that. Told us about She didn't know, but we heard later while he was there in Fitzgerald, he'd cut his arm. Was that the last time he cut his arm? This is interesting. The state brought a picture up and showed it to Colin Gray. You're not going to see that picture. We don't believe that that's his arm. Take a look at the picture over there of him. There's no cuts on his arm. Let me tell you, if those cuts had been on his arm, the police officers, when they arrested him, they would have taken pictures of that. They took the other pictures of the upper arm several years ago when he cut himself. Why is that picture not in? Because they can't prove that it was his arm. Nobody else saw it. Debbie didn't see it. Marcy didn't see it. Jenny didn't see it. Colt didn't see it. Colin didn't see it. So where in the heck did that come from? Doesn't make any sense. She told us that she bought Colt a phone when he went back with his dad so that they could stay in communication. And that she talked to him a lot. That she came to Bear County and to Jefferson County to see him almost every month. She purchased for Colt ammunition and clips. Why would she do that? Because she was glad that he had something that he enjoyed doing. Going hunting with his dad. Bonding with his dad. She was not displeased with him purchasing this gun back in December. Otherwise, she would not be purchasing all these items for him. And it's interesting, during the time that Colin and Colt were together in Jefferson and here, we didn't hear one thing about any altercations between Colin or Colt. One of the big things that they want to talk about is this May 23rd, when Jefferson County sent a sheriff's deputy out to the home. You got to view that video. When they came to the home, Colin, come on up on the porch. I'll get him out here. You talk to him. You didn't try to hide anything from him. Come out and talk to him. They talked to Colt. Talked to Colin. And Colin tells them, if there's anything to this, all the guns in the house are gone. At that time, Colt gun had not been purchased. It didn't get purchased for about 7 or 8 months later. But the thing is, they want to say that that is a red flag that Colin should have known by them coming out there. But what did they say? You know what? We don't believe that your son did this. The follow-up phone call was the next day. And they told Colin, we don't believe your son did this. This came through some California website. It was in Russian. We don't know what this is. Never was there a follow-up. Never. Has there been one police officer or official that has ever told Colin Gray, your son is a threat and you need to throw the guns away? No. You didn't hear that, and you won't hear that because there wasn't any. Debbie tells us that unfortunately she was tied up by her daughter. Marcy was on drugs pretty heavily, and she had the 2 children down there with her in Fitzgerald. DFACS took those children, and they called Colin and said, will you come and get these 2 children? He didn't hesitate. He didn't say, no, I don't want my children. He loved his children. He wanted his children. So he went down immediately and he brought them back. And because of that, Marcy was pretty upset. She had lost the 2 children. So what did she do? She wanted to borrow her mother's car. She said, I'm going to kill Colin and Colt. Now, if you're a 13, 14-year-old boy, and you hear that your mother wants to kill you, what do you think that does to you? You think you might not be real happy with your mother at that point in time? Do you think that you might think, you know, she might really do that. She might kill me. Debbie indicated that she helped Colin from time to time. She indicated that, and of course I'm sure the state's going to talk about the 8th grade, what happened in the 8th grade. But beginning of the 8th grade, Colt was in Fitzgerald. He was not registered. They attempted to get him in virtual school. Didn't work out. Then he went back with his dad. As he testified to you, he asked his sister to help, asked Debbie to help, try to get Colt into a program, and actually believed that Colt was. So you'll find some of these emails or texts where he's texting and saying, how's school going? You know, what are you doing class-wise today? And Colt is not telling him the truth. He's lying to him about doing the schoolwork. Debbie says that she got a call from Colt to come and get Marcy, because after Marcy got out of rehab, it was decided in the family, let's bring her back and see how that'll work out. She was there about a month. But during that month, she caused all kind of havoc. Debbie told us that she had to come up and retrieve Marcy because of an altercation between she and Colt. She also told us that she had come up here on the 28th and met with Lisa Butler. Talked to Lisa Butler about getting Colt into some therapy. You also heard on the 26th, Colt texts Debbie and says, if I do something bad, will you still love me? And of course, she texts back and said, sure. You know what? She never told Colin that. This is one of the problems. Things happen and nobody tells him. How's he supposed to get this? Through osmosis? If people don't tell him things, how's he going to know? Debbie says that while she's up here getting Marcy decides to put Colt on Zoloft. And she said that when she was here and talked to Lisa Butler, she talked to Colin about filling out paperwork to get the counseling. And he did that. The state poo-pooed on that, and they said, well, it took you 24 hours to fill out that paperwork on one page. It's not that he didn't do it. You're going to condemn him for waiting a day? This is kind of the way this thing has gone. They want you to connect dots from the second grade for a 7-year time period and say, well, you should have known that he was going to commit a murder because he wrote some graffiti on the wall in the second grade, or because he went behind a firewall in the third grade or sixth grade. They want you to connect those dots for a 7-year time period. What happened to the other 364 days of the year? What happened to all of the other time period? They want to pick out these different things over a 7-year time period and say, you put them all together and this is what you got. But as a parent, you don't do that. She also told us that she thought Colin was doing a great job with these children. Now, Colin is pulling the wagon. He's working a job. He has 3 children, not just Colt, but he's got 2 more. Colt's not easy, but he's having to feed and clothe, pay rent, pay all of the bills that need to be paid. He's pulling the wagon. Nobody wants to talk about the other 2 children who are going to school, not being late, and doing what they're supposed to do. They wouldn't be doing that if it wasn't for him. He's the one that got them up, got them going, got them to school. The problem child is Colt, and he was doing the best that he could to figure that out. It's interesting, too, that Debbie never told Colt, you need to put these guns up. She never told him that. Let's talk a minute about Marcy. You've got an opportunity to hear her as she described herself. She's a good mother. I think we'd have to beg to differ on that. She told us, and really tried to make light of many of these issues. It seems with Marcy, nothing is her fault. Everything is somebody else's fault. And apparently she had no problem with Colt and Colin going hunting. Apparently she had no problem with Colt going to the firing range. And apparently had no problem with the gun being in and around the house. Because you're not going to find one single text message or email from her telling Colin to put the guns up, your son is a threat. Not one. I had a big stack of emails and text messages. Not one of them. They had one conversation after Marcy was there and got into the altercation with Colt when she grabbed the gun and he took it back away from her. And that's when she said, you need to put the guns up. That's the only time. It's interesting, too, that neither Debbie, nor Marcy, nor Jenny, nor Collie never saw any ammunition in Colt's room. There's one photograph that's in the group that shows some ammunition, some Winchester, a box of Winchester ammunition. Was that when Debbie bought it and then it got put up? Ammunition was kept away from the gun. The rule was no ammunition in the gun. It's in a different place. And a gun without ammunition is just a gun. Marcy told us, I didn't see this coming. Here's the woman who is talking to Colt about school shooters. Here's the woman who knows that Colt has put $20 on Nicholas Cruz's account. Here's the woman who's doing searches of school shooters. Here's the woman who's watching documentaries, none of which she told Colin about. There's not one single email about that. The state's going to bring up this right after she was doing the searches. It was a 11 or 14-minute telephone call where the state's going to say it's interesting that right after she does these searches that they're talking on the phone. Neither Marcy nor Colin say that they were talking about the school shooting or looking up what happens to parents in school shooting. They were talking about the Saturday that she was going to come up. That's what they were talking about. If you remember, they were going to come up, she wanted to come up on Saturday and take Colt to Advantage. But that didn't happen. It didn't happen because Colin didn't want it to happen. He didn't want her to get up here and have another altercation, Colt have another altercation with the mother. Plus, it's a 4.5-hour drive down there. And a 4.5-hour drive back. That's 9 hours. So what did she expect? He's going to drive there, leave at 6 in the morning, and then drive another 16 hours total, there, back, and still have time to take Colt to Advantage. Doesn't make any sense. That was not going to be the plan. But as much as Marcy tries to throw Colin under the bus, she said to you, I didn't tell him about it. I didn't tell him about these searches. I didn't tell him about Colt's obsession with shooters. I didn't tell him about the money that Colt got from his dad that he lied about. Matter of fact, she laughed about it. And she says, I didn't see it coming. She talked about the email back in the 6th grade where Colt looked up how to kill your dad. Colt explained that to his dad. As you heard, there were a number of boys that were talking about it, and he just looked it up. We don't know whether any of the other boys got ISS like he did. We know that Colin wasn't even told about it for a couple of months. We don't know whether there were any counselors that talked with him at that point. We don't have that information. What else did Marcy do? Well, she keyed writing something nasty on Colin's truck, causing him to lose his job. Hard to get another job in the business that he's in. But he was able to get a good job, and he was making good money. And he was buying his children things. Not only Colt, but Jenny, and little Colt. Just like most parents would do. The altercation that she had with Colt when she came back here after she had been in rehab, she told a different version than what Colt told his dad. And it's interesting that Jenny also said it was Mother who went and got the gun. So who would Colin believe? Jenny and Colt, or Marcy, who lies all the time? Marcy is the one that dyed Colt's hair blonde shortly before this incident. She believed that Colt had anxiety and depression. And she told you that she had talked to her psychiatrist about Zoloft. Why did she not talk to her psychiatrist about Colt? Why did she not say, he's having some anger issues, he's having anxiety, what do you think we ought to do? She never did that. It's interesting, too, that Marcy, when she was here, never said anything about seeing this collage of photographs that's been shown to you a ton. She never saw it. Debbie never saw it, which is interesting because she said, you remember, she came up here to clean up Colt's room. So surely, if it was on the wall when she was here, she would remember it. But she didn't. Marcy told us that everybody was on board with getting Colt therapy. She told you that Colt had said he wanted to kill his dad another time. But she also told you, I never told Colin about that. So how's he going to know somebody didn't tell him? But she says, I didn't see it coming. And then she said, I can't picture him hurting anyone. It's the last thing that I would have thought. That's what she said. You heard from Jenny. Big difference when she came in to testify to you as opposed to the statement that we played. She told you when she came here in her testimony that Colt always kept his door closed. She also said that her dad asked to cover for him. Cover for what? Ask her to lie about what? He gave 2 long statements to police. He told them a consistent story about picture, consistently that there was one picture. He came back and said he was told that it was Nicholas Cruz. But what else? What else did she lie about? State didn't ask her. Let's go through what she said in her first statement. She said her father was a happy and energetic person. And we know that because of the text messages that he sends to the children, and you'll be able to look at those or talk about them. He's always telling them that he loves them. He's encouraging them, especially Colt. He's encouraging them to go to school, do the right thing. You're a good young man. I love you. Encouragement from parents that you would expect. Not getting that same kind of encouragement from Marcy. She said about her mother that she was overbearing and annoying. When Colt got in a mood, he would instigate stuff. She told you about when he would get mad and he would rush at Colin, and Colin would bear hug him and hold him until he calmed down. And then she said something interesting. Colt would always apologize. He would always come back and say, I'm sorry. She said that her dad was close to getting him in therapy. And she told you about the burner accounts that Colt had. That he had numbers of accounts, and his dad did not know. She said specifically, Dad doesn't know anything about it. She said that Colt had talked with her about school shootings. But Dad didn't know. She never told Dad. She said Colt had been bullied. I think she felt like that probably was a reason that he had these anger issues. And then she said, the morning that this happened, I saw this book bag, and it didn't look right. I knew there weren't assignments that early. And when he left, I went in and looked for the gun. The gun wasn't there. But she didn't call her dad. She didn't call Colin and say, guess what? The gun's gone, and it looks like maybe Colt has it in a book bag. Didn't call him to tell him that. But she did call him after the incident, as well as Marcy. Marcy had been watching it, had been talking to the school. Marcy knew a lot, and she calls before the officers ever get there. And you know, they played this segment here where Colin said, I knew it. That doesn't mean that he knew that's what he was going to do. He knew it because Marcy had already called and Jenny had called. They're trying to push it to make something that really it didn't fit. Just like this text, the blood's on your hands text. It's interesting that that text comes when Marcy and he are in a problem, and he wants her out of there. And he's telling his dad, she needs to get out of here. It's gonna be blood on your hands because she's already said that she's gonna kill me. So that's a problem. But shortly after that text, after he texts that, he texts his dad, I like school. People here are mature. I'm enjoying school. What does that portray? I want to talk just a minute about Lisa Butler, too. On August the 13th, Lisa Butler met with Colt and Colin, and they were trying to figure out exactly what they needed to do with Colt, because most of the 8th grade he missed. So she's trying to figure out, okay, do I put him in 8th grade classes? Do I put him in 9th grade classes? Colin wants him to be in the 8th grade with Jenny. So they decide this is when your start date's going to be. So when they made that chart saying, oh, he didn't go to school here, he didn't go to school here, he didn't go to school here, it was not the starting date. He wasn't supposed to go to school during those times because the starting date was started later. And that's what Lisa Butler told us. She saw him again on the 26th when he came to her office with anxiety. She talked to Colin on the phone. She tried to call him, but it was the wrong number. Colt got him on the phone. His dad got him calmed down. But Colt told her about his mother, what his mother had done to his grandmother, and several other things about the mother being on meth. And so Lisa Butler had some idea at that point about what was going on with Colt. But she put him in, I think, a calm room or a safe room or whatever they call those things. They have them in school. An awful lot of kids with anxiety these days. They've even had to make a room for kids with anxiety. And she said that on the day of this shooting, she had a whole bunch of folks waiting for her because of the problems that they were having in the school. She said that she got a telephone call that morning from Marcy, explaining that she thought, because of a text message that she got, that Colt was going to be doing something at the school. They talked for about 8.5 minutes, close to 9 minutes, shortly before this started. She also told us that she had Colin fill out paperwork for Jade Baker to start therapy. You saw the letter that Jade Baker sent saying, I will meet with Colt the first part of next week. I think Colin believed that it was going to be on the 5th. It would have been a day later. Let's talk about Colin. When the police came to interview him, he cooperated. He gave them a statement immediately. He told them they could go in the house and search. He gave them permission to search the phones. He did everything that he could to cooperate, still not knowing exactly what and how this could have happened. He didn't have to do that, but he did. And then he gave in another statement the very next day. Didn't try to get a lawyer to go with him. Went by himself. Gave his background, history, told them whatever they wanted to know. Talk about the defects calling and him going to Fitzgerald to get the children. Now, does this sound like a parent that doesn't care? Does this sound like a parent who's just going to slough off his kid? He wasn't out running the road at night. He wasn't drinking. He wasn't hitting on his kids. He would come home and he would deal with the kids every night. And on the weekends, he would take them places. He did things with the kids. He wanted the kids to be happy. He wanted Colt to be happy. And he thought, and you probably will remember this, when he took Colt hunting and Colt shot his first deer, he told him going in, don't expect to even see a deer. But there he was. And he shot the deer, and he told you, that was one of the happiest days of my life. Because Colt has accomplished something. He is going to have a bonding with me now over hunting. Going to the target range. There's absolutely nothing wrong with going to the target range. There's absolutely nothing wrong with hunting. You don't have to put a gun in his name. As you remember, what Colin said was, I bought the gun at Christmas, but I told him, when you get to be of age, I'm going to give it to you. This is just for you to use. It's not yours until you come of age. He had rules about the gun. It's not loaded in the house. So if any of these rules are broken, the guns are out of here. Now the state said, well, you know, you got these gun locks. You know, if a kid is motivated, if he's been victimized by this dark web, and we don't know exactly when all this dark web stuff started, but if he's smart as Colt was, you know what do you do with a gun lock? Take a big old pair of wire cutters, cut that thing off. Think that's really going to stop him if that's what he's intended to do? You think even locking up ammunition, he's smart enough to know, okay, when we go to the gun range, when my grandmother buys me bullets, I'm going to stick a few in my pocket. I'm going to hoard up these things. If he really made the decision that this is what he's going to do, he's smart enough to have been able to do that. You think that would have really stopped him? Colin told you he never had a reason to believe that Colt would harm anybody with this gun. He had never told him anything about harming anybody with a gun. He had never threatened with a gun. It was a trust thing. It was a trust between he and Colin because they needed that. They needed that trust because he wanted the best way he knew how to try to help his son fit in, do something that he enjoyed, feel good about something. We talked about the 3 times where Colt rushed him and what he will do. Bear hug him until he calmed down. He told you about the screwdriver incident. The screwdriver incident was where he had bought some tools for Colt to work on his computer. Apparently the screwdriver didn't fit. He was frustrated. He threw it down the hall. Colin said he wasn't even looking. He didn't even see it. And again, Colt apologized. The state's going to pick out, I'm sure, some messages that don't look great. But you've got to look behind what these messages are. Look at the whole colloquy that they are having. And you'll see other messages. Did you make it to school today? I'm proud of you. I love you. You're a good young man. And all the while dealing with two other children. He's trying to pull that wagon the best he can. I want to talk just a minute about the investigation. See how I'm doing time-wise. How much time I got left here?
So 2:47 is your cutoff.
I'm working on it. The investigation in this case, the one thing that jumps out is you'll see the picture of the computer that's on the floor, and there's a drill there. Now, did anyone tell you what happened to this computer? Were they able to get the chip out of it? Were they able to look into this computer and find out when he was talking on the dark web, who he was talking to, what information they had, how long had he been talking on the dark web? We don't have any of that information. We don't even know whether there was any damage to that computer. We got 60,000 pages of other stuff, but we don't know what all was on the Colt computer. Another thing we don't know, we saw on the video at 8:03, he's texting somebody. It certainly wasn't Colin, it wasn't Marcy, it wasn't Debbie, it wasn't Jenny. So who was it? Was it somebody on the dark web? Was it somebody telling them, hey, watch the news, I'm getting ready to do something? We don't know. Important to know how long Colt had been planning to do something. Another thing that was interesting, you see back there, I think it's number 46 maybe, there's a trash can. And in that trash can are the boxes for this ammunition. Where was this trash can? Was a trash can in Colin's room? Was a trash can in the kitchen? Was a trash can in Colt's room? Would it make sense that he would be loading that gun that morning and throwing it in the trash, because that's what's on top of the trash, you can see it. But we don't know where he loaded the gun. We saw one shell apparently that fell out when he was loading that landed in a mask. You know what room that was in? And this photograph of the cutting in April. What in the world is that about? Something to try to make you think he's cutting in April, but they don't put it into evidence, and we don't even know whether it's his arm. You can look at that photograph, there's no scars on that arm. It kind of reminds me of what they used to call leptomania. And that's where a magician says, Watch this hand so you won't see what he's doing with this one. They want to bring up everything in the world that they can, all of this stuff over a 7-year time period, and you're supposed to lump it all together and say, oh my God, he should have known that he was a homicidal maniac. Where's the evidence of that? It's not here. This alleged shrine that they talk about. It's interesting, they didn't even ask Jenny in the statement that they took from her first if she remembers seeing it. Charlie, who came with Debbie, Charlie is Debbie's husband, and Debbie came to pick Marcy up a few days or a week or so before this happened. They didn't see it. Little Coley apparently didn't see it. If anybody saw it, I'm sure they would have brought him in. Debbie didn't see it. Marcy didn't see it. Charlie didn't see it. So why is it so unbelievable that Colin didn't see it? You're going to have some pictures back there. Some of them are from the past. Look at them closely to see whether they match up with what was on the wall when they went over after the shooting at the high school. The gun, everybody's concerned about what this gun looks like. It's an ominous looking weapon. Same kind of weapon that they show on TV all the time. All the police had it. All the soldiers had it. Everybody has these kind of guns. You go to a gun shop, you're going to see a lot of guns like this. It's kind of the Cadillac, the flashy kind of gun. But the reality is it doesn't work any different than a 9mm. So don't let them talk to you about how bad this gun is. It's like any other gun that is a semi-automatic. As I mentioned before, there's only one picture of bullets. Nobody, not Marcy, not Debbie, not Jenny, nobody has said they ever saw ammunition in Colt's room. You know, sometimes it's just as important things you don't hear as things that you do. You didn't have one single message from Colt to anybody that he ever contemplated himself doing a school shooting. Nobody testified that they heard him say that. There's no text messages indicating to Colin that anybody believed that. There's no emails or text messages or telephone calls from any officials telling Colin, you need to be cautious. Your son is a credible threat to people. Nobody ever said that. There's one text I'm sure they'll talk about where he calls us to text his dad about voices. Another ploy to get out of school, maybe. It was early in the morning, didn't want to go to school. And this is another thing. When they talk about what's foreseeable, what can you foresee? What can you tell? The state's got to show you that he knew that Colt would, not could, or not possible, but that he would. That's in their indictment. They have to prove what's in that indictment. Look at the indictment. Look at the things that they have put in there to try to focus. But the word would is pretty important. Have they proven that he would, that he knew that he would? Absolutely not. What's foreseeable and what's unforeseeable? What's unimaginable? Unimaginable that your child will commit murder. Nobody can foresee that. Nobody wants to ever think that. If you or someone you know had a child, grandchild, niece, or nephew who struggled with self-esteem, self-worth, don't make friends easily, trouble keeping up with school, been bullied, who shows signs of anxiety or depression, then you know what it's like to worry about those kids. You worry about whether they'll have friends. You worry about will they be able to complete school? Will they find something that they're interested in and enjoy? Will they ever be happy? But all the while you think about that as a parent, you love your children and you remain hopeful. And that's what Colin Gray did. He remained hopeful. He took the children on. He didn't send them to DFACS. I'll take care of my children. I'll pull that wagon. And as he told you, I may not have done it correctly. I may have made some mistakes. But he didn't know what was coming. Because he didn't have sufficient warning. That's what they got to prove. And what is that sufficient warning? You think if somebody, it's not against the law to have a gun in the house or ammunition. You think everybody that has a gun in their house and their child has anxiety, then that's sufficient warning? Is it really? Is that what we've come to? The state said, you know, we don't want to charge all parents with what their children do. Just this one. What the state said, their little colloquy about someone taking the car, and getting in a wreck, they're not going to charge them. Well, let me tell you, if you have a child that may have a tendency to drink, and you buy that child a flashy car, and you don't lock up your liquor, and he goes out and kills somebody, that's exactly what we're talking about. Do you want this to be the way the law is? This is the first case in Georgia like this. Do you want to make a law? Do you want to make the law that way? You know, with kids, there's always ups and downs. You always hope to manage their downs. And Colt had some downs. But Colin managed them. He took him to play golf, he took him to do other things, fish, and he took him to hunt, and he took him to target practice. And he never in a million years thought that this son that he loved was going to turn out to be the monster that killed these people. As he told you on the stand when the state was questioning, I never saw that evil before. You saw his reaction when he had to watch that movie. That's the typical reaction of a father who cares and did what he could. It wasn't that he wasn't going to get him therapy. It wasn't that he... The state's going to say, well, he could have done it the day before. He could have done it a week before. They had a plan. And his plan was Lisa Butler, through Jade Baker, is going to talk to Colt, and they're going to suggest to me what we need to do. I've looked at some other places, as fallback places. I've emailed people. We're going to let them tell us, what does he need to do? And then I'm going to follow through with it. That was the plan. And that was going to happen. But this happened before. Ups and downs, but you got to stay positive. You got to try to keep that trust between you and your child. What never enters your mind is a parent who loves their child and who thinks they understand their child, that they could plan and carry out such a horrific shooting. The state spent a lot of time attacking the decision of Colin, and at times even mocking his efforts with Colt. Colin was always hopeful and trying to redirect Colt to do things that would help him. Deal with his depression. State disregards those attempts and tries to demonize Colin, but it's fundamental, natural, innate in parents that they are wired to see the best in their children. We always want to see the best in our children. We always want to try to do the best that we can for our children. He bought Colt a lot of things, thinking that that would make him happy, and it would for a period of time. But you know, there's a lot of days in the last 7 years where nothing ordinary took place. 7 years is a long time. A lot of days went by where Colt was fine. Don't follow the DAs down this slippery slope of attempting to hold parents criminally responsible for what their children did. Our Constitution is based on we the people. We the people that sit here, and we the people that sit over there. And we the people demand that the state prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. Of the three forms of government, the executive, judicial, and legislative, the judicial is the only one where we the people get to directly make a decision about our fellow human beings. You get to decide. The state doesn't get to decide. We don't get to decide. The state gives you facts. We give you facts. The judge gives you the law. And you make the decision. The state would like for you to think that the system works when you find somebody guilty. But let me tell you, the system works also when you can say to the state, wait a minute, you know, there's some things missing here. I don't understand how this could be. There's conflicts in the evidence. It doesn't fit the law. What's unjustifiable? What's a gross deviation? Gross deviation from normal. The decision is now up to you. Like I told you in the beginning, We appreciate the opportunity to have you as jurors on this case. Everybody's been very attentive, and I think that's certainly important. And I know that you will give Colin every consideration based on what you've heard. And that's all we can ask of any jury. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm glad I didn't start coughing. So, thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.